Hello my dear students, welcome back. Welcome to the sub lesson 4. We're going to talk about cubes of numbers. Now previous lesson we talked about squares of numbers. Now we're going to talk about cubes of numbers. What is cube? Okay, let's say for example Mr. Mac to give you 4 to the third power. Now this is also called power of 3. So now that 4 power of 3, or this is also can be called as exponential, and which is also cube. Alright, so that means 4 times 4 times 4. Kind of like the square, when Mr. Mac had it 4 to the squared, which means 4 to the power of 2. We are repeating 4 how many times? 2 times, and we are multiplying it. When you cube, you repeat 3 times and you're multiplying it. So it's very important, alright? You're repeating the number that you're cubing 3 times. Alright? So let's say for example, Mr. Mac to give you negative 5 to the cube. Now keep in mind, this cube is only controlling the 5, not the negative, alright? So it becomes negative 5 times 5 times 5. Now if I have to put negative 5 to the cube, then you got negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5. Okay? See that? And then you use the pairing method, okay, to solve it. Same thing this one, pairing method. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is, so we use outside our timetable, so we're going to use the long multiplication method. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 carry 2. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 6. So 64. See that? In this case, negative 5 times negative 5 is, negative times negative is positive. 5 times 5 is 25. And then I'm multiplying that with the negative 5. See that? So positive times negative is negative. 25 times 5, we use the long multiplication method, alright? Because outside our timetable. 5 times 5 is 25, 5 carry 2, 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So that gives me negative 125. So it's very important to understand the difference between the cube and the square. Cube, you repeat the number that you're cubing 3 times. Like in this case, 4, 4, 4. In this case, you got, when you square, you're repeating the 4 2 times. 4 times 4. Alright, you're multiplying them. Alright, so now let's say for example, if I were to give you in a form of decimal 2.3 to the third power, which is cube. Okay, so that means what? 2.3 times 2.3 times 2.3. See that? You're repeating that 3 times. Okay, so that means 2.3 times 2.3 times 2.3. Then you use the pairing method. Alright. Okay, so we're going to times 2.3 with 2.3 first. That means decimal, multiply. What method we're going to use? Forget now, remember later, alright? So we're going to times 23 with 23, okay? So line it up, very important. 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 2 is 6, and then we're going to multiply. We're going to start right here. 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 2 is 4. Then we're going to add them. 9, 6 plus 6 is 12, 2 carry 1, 1 plus 4 is 5. And then we're going to bring the decimal back. How many numbers behind the decimal? 1, 2. So 1, 2. So 1, 2 right there. So you get 5.29. Now we're going to multiply that with 2.3. See that? Again, forget now, remember later, okay? So we're going to take 529. We're going to multiply that 23. So we're going to line it up. Okay, 3 times 9 is 27, 7, 2, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8, 3 times 5 is 15, 5, 1. Now I'm going to do the 2, say place value, okay? You're going to come straight down here, you're going to start right here. 2 times 9 is 18, 8 carry 1, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, 2 times 5 is 10, 0, 1. Now you add 7, 8 plus 8 is 16, carry 1. 1 plus 5 is 6, 6 plus 5 is 11, 1 carry 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 0 is 2, bring the 1 down. Now we bring the decimal back. How many digits behind the decimal? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. So it becomes 12.167. And that's the answer for that one. 12.167. Pretty easy, isn't it? Very straightforward, okay? Now, what happens if it's a fraction? If I give you a fraction, let's say, if I give you 3 over 4 to the cube. Now, this is also means 3 cube, 4 cube. See that? That means what? 3 times 3 times 3, 4 times 4 times 4. 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27. 4 times 4 is 16, 16 times 4 is 64. See that? So it turns to be 27 over 64. Alright? So the key thing I need you to understand is when you do cube, you are multiplying how many times? 3 times that number you're cubing. 3 times. The same number you repeat 3 times. Okay? If I give you 7 to the cube, 7 times 7 times 7. See that? Alright, let Mr. Mac erase the board. Let's talk more about this. And I'll be back within a few seconds. Alright, my dear student, now keep in mind when you're cubing, like for example, like say we square, okay, we got negative number, let's say negative to the 5 when I square it. Now you're repeating that twice, that means negative 5, you're timesing with negative 5. And negative times negative will give you positive. 5 times 5 is 25. Now when you cube a negative, you always will get negative. Why is that? Now look at this. If I have negative 5 to the third power, which is cube, alright? That means negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5. Negative times negative is what? Positive. And then times with another negative gives you negative. See that? So whenever you cube a negative number, your final answer will always be negative. Keep in mind, alright? So this way, you don't have to spend time in figuring out what the sign would be, but you concentrate in multiplying the numbers, alright? So keep in mind again, when you cube a negative, the final answer will always be negative, alright? Because look at that, negative times negative is positive, positive times negative is negative. Alright, then what do you do? 5 times 5 is 25, okay? So we know that 5 times 5 is 25, and then we're going to times with another 5, so we line it up. So 25 times 5, 5 times 5 is 25, so we're going to put a 5, carry 2, 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So that gives me 125. It'd be negative 125. So when I cube negative 5, gives me negative 125. Alright? Let's do another one. Let's say for example, if I had to give you negative 6 to the third power or cube. So another way of saying it is negative 6 to the third power, which is cubing. Alright? You call that third power. This is a power or exponential. Alright? So which means negative 6 times negative 6 times negative 6. And you know your final answer is going to be negative because you're cubing. Alright, so now you just times 6 times 6 is 36, which is in a timetable range, and then you want to times that with 6, which is outside a timetable, so we can line it up. So 36 times 6, 6 times 6 is 36, 6 carry the 3, 6 times 3 is 18, plus 3 is 21. So it'll be 216. So negative 216. Very important. I want you to pay attention to that, okay? Now that also apply to if it's a fraction. If I give you negative, let's say 2 over 7, and I'm cube. And you know that I'm cubing, this is going to be negative, okay? Your final answer is going to be negative. It's just that I'm going to multiply now with a 2. So 2 times 2 times 2, 7 times 7 times 7. See that? Because that is, which is also means negative 2 to the cube, 7 to the cube. See that? That means 2 times 2 times 2, 7 times 7 times 7. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. So we know that's going to be 8. The 7 times 7 is 49, which is our timetable range. And then 49, we're going to times it with 7. So we're going to line it up. 49 times 7. 7 times 9 is 63. Okay, so 3, carry the 6. 7 times 4 is 28. Plus 6 is 30, good, 34. Okay, so 34. Right? Okay, so then we put it down here. 343. So negative 8 over 343. That's your final answer. Okay, good. Now, if it's a decimal, let's say if I give you negative 0.5 and I'm cubing, in other words, power of 3, so cube of that. So pretty much you know it's going to be a negative number. The only thing I'm going to times 3 times is 0.5. So 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5. Pairing method. Very important, all right? Pairing method. Okay? So I'm going to multiply this too. So we forget now, remember later, because we're multiplying 2 decimal. So 5 times 5 is 25. Okay? So we know 25. And how many digits behind the decimal? 1, 2. So 1, 2. I'm going to put right there. 0.25. And I'm going to multiply that with 0.5. Again, 2 decimals. Forget now, remember later. So we're going to times 25 with 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 carry 2. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2 is 12. How many digits behind the decimal? 1, 2, 3. We're going to grab the decimal here. 1, 2, 3. Put it right there. So it becomes 0.125. See that? Pretty easy, isn't it? All right. Now don't forget the negative. Okay, we're going to take that and put it right there. 0.125. Okay, very important. Okay, because when you cube, you still got the negative. We just did the working. Then once you got the after you done the multiplication, make sure put it back right there, because it has to have a negative to it. Negative 0.125. Okay, good. Now that's the part that I want you to understand, the difference between square and cube. It's pretty straightforward. We spend a lot of time understanding the square, and that helped you understanding cube a lot faster. Am I right? Okay, good. Well, that tells you are ready for hands-on practice. All right, my dear student. Let Mr. Mac, let's check what Pablo's doing. Yes. He's working, putting some hands-on practice for us, okay? Good. Let Mr. Mac erase the board, and then I'll come back, and then we'll call Pablo out, and we'll do some hands-on practice. I'll see you in a few seconds. Hello my dear students, are you ready for hands-on practice? I know you are. That's for your year, alright? I'm excited and you are excited. Well, I know Pablo's excited, and let's call him. You want to call him? Shall I call him? Okay, I'll call him. Pablo, come on over, Pablo. Our DDS students are ready for some hands-on practice. Here's Pablo. Pablo, hand over the worksheet. And students, be sure to pause the video, all right? Once you're done, invite Mr. Mac in, and then we can work together. Here it is. Have fun. All right. Pablo, he gave you so few questions. Did you students talk him into giving you less problems now? All right. Okay. It's a short lesson. That's okay, all right? Okay, come on over. Let's do it together. Okay, Mr. Beck got all the questions listed on the board. So let's do the first one, the 1A. You got 3 cubed, which is also 3 to the power of 3. That means what? This 3 tells you to repeat this number to 3 times, all right? So that means 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, so 3 times 3 is, we're going to use the pairing method. Always use a pairing method. So 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. Alright, there is no negative, so you're fine. It's a positive number, so you're multiplying. Okay, so 27. But look at this one. This one got negative, but it's a cube. It's not like a square. When you square a negative number, alright, the negative always becomes positive when you square it. But when you cube, it always remain negative as long in the bracket for square, okay? So as long in the bracket in the square, it will be positive. But in this case, it will be negative. No matter whether it's in the bracket or not in the bracket, you still have negative if you have a negative number, okay? So you know it's going to be negative. So we're going to repeat 6 how many times? 3 times. And what we're going to do to that? 6, we're going to multiply, alright? So we're going to 6 times 6 times 6. We're going to use the pairing method. 6 times 6 is 36. And then we're going to times with that 6. Okay, so 36 times 6, we're going to use the long multiplication method, alright? Because it is outside our timetable range. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 carries 3. 6 times 3 is 18 plus 3 is 21. So that's 216. So negative 216. So very important, okay? Alright, now let's look at that to see. You got decimal 2.8 to the third power, or 2.8 to the cube. Okay, you're cubing 2.8. That means you're 2.8 times 2.8 times 2.8. That's what that means, okay? You're multiplying that 2.8 3 times. And we're going to use the pairing method. We're going to multiply this and then we're going to multiply with that. Now when you multiply 2 decimals, exactly, forget now, remember later, okay? So we're going to times 28 with 28 first, alright? So we're going to line it up. So we can take 28 times 28. 8 times 8 is 64. 4 carry the 6. 8 times 2 is 16 plus 6 is 22. So 2 and 2. 2 times, so we're going to start right here, right? 2 times 8 is 16. 6 carry 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. And we're going to add it. 4. 2 plus 6 is 8. 2 plus 5 is 7. Now, we got to bring the decimal back. How many digits behind the decimal? 1, 2. Okay, that's a 2. So I'm going to grab this decimal right there, move it twice. 1, 2, and put it right there. So it becomes 7 point. So this one becomes 7.84. And then I'm going to multiply that with 2.8. Alright, with that 2.8. See that? Okay, so what are you going to do again? 2 decimal when you multiply, forget now, remember later. So we're going to take 784, we're going to multiply that with 28. 8 times 4, 32. You put 2 and then you carry the 3, okay? 8 times 8 is 64 plus 3 is 67. Okay, I'm going to put the 7 and carry the 6. 8 times 7 is, very good, 56. 56 plus 6, 62. Very good, 62. Alright, now we're going to times it with 2. Make sure you start right here, right? 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 8 is 16. 6 carry 1. 2 times 7 is 14. Plus 1 is 15. Alright, now we're going to add them. 2, 7 plus 8 is 15. 5 carry 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. Plus 6 is 9. Alright, 6 plus 5 is 11. 1 carry 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Then what do? Bring the decimal back. Very important, okay? How many digits behind the decimal? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So that means you're going to grab this decimal, move it 3 times. 1, 2, and then 3 right there. So it becomes 21.952. Okay, and that's for this one right there. Alright? Pretty easy, isn't it? Very straightforward, okay? Now let's look at D. Now you got negative 1.4 to the cube. You're cubing negative 1.4. Now you know that when you cube a negative number, it will be always what? Negative, alright? So we know it's going to be negative. So 1.4 is the one you're timesing 3 times. So 1.4 times 1.4 times 1.4. So we're going to use that pairing method. So we're going to times 1.4 with 1.4. Now, decimal, again, decimal, when you 2 decimal you multiply, you say what? That's right, forget now, remember later, okay? So we're going to take 114, we're going to multiply that with 14, okay? So 4 times 4 is 16, carry 1, 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And then we're going to multiply that with 1, we're going to stretch from right here, okay? 1 times 4 is 4, 1 times 1 is 1, and then we're going to add it. 6, 5 plus 4 is 9, and then bring 1. And then we're going to bring the decimal back. How many decimal? How many digits behind the decimal? 1, 2. So grab it, 1, 2 right there. Okay, so that'd be 1.96. Then we're going to multiply that with 1.4 again. Okay, 1.4. Again, we're going to forget now, remember later. So we're going to take 196, we're going to times it with 14. We're going to take 196, we're going to times it with 14. Line them up. Very important, lining them up. Okay, 4 times 6 is 24. So 4 carry 2. 4 times 9 is 36 plus 2 is 38. So we can put 8, carry the 3. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. Now I'm going to times with 1. Make sure I start right here, right? 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times 1 is 1. Now I'm going to add it. 4, 8 plus 6 is 14. Carry 1. 1 plus 7 is 8. Plus 9 is 17. Carry 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So now we're going to bring the decimal back. How many digits behind the decimal? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I'll grab the decimal, move it. 1, 2, 3. Then put it right there. So that becomes 2.744. Now remember, that's a negative. So you got to bring this one back, put it right there. Put it right back here. Negative 2.744. Very important, all right? When you see a negative, bing, all right? Because we don't want to underestimate the power of negative. It's very powerful, okay? Good. All right, now let's look at problem E. Now there's a fraction here, okay? This is also means 5 over 3 over 8 over 3. See that? That means what? 5 times 5 times 5 over 8 times 8 times 8. Right there. So we're going to use the pairing method, okay? 5 times 5 is 25. So let's write down here, okay? 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 is 25. And then we're going to times to another 5. So line it up. So 25 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 carry 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 2 is 12. 125. Okay, that gives me 125. Okay? So then I put it right here, 125. And then 8 times 8 times 8. Let's put it right down here. 8 times 8 times 8. Pairing method. Okay, 8 times 8 is 64. And then we're going to multiply that with another 8. Alright, line it up. Okay, 64 times 8. 8 times 4 is 32. 2 carry 3. 8 times 6 is 48. Plus 3 is, very good, 51. Okay, so that gives me 512. Okay, take that one and I put it right here. 512. And that's the answer for 5 over 8 to the cube, or to the power of 3. Alright, now look at this one. Negative 1 over 2 to the power of 3, or cube. And you know the answer is going to be what? Negative. Alright, and then what's it going to be? 1. Actually, this is also means 1 over 3 over 2 over 3, negative. See that? Because we know this is going to be negative, even though it's when it's the third power, let's say put a negative there. Okay, so negative 1 times 1 times 1. This is 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so I'm repeating that 3 times. See that? So 1 times 1 times 1 is always what? 1. Very good. And then 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So it becomes negative 1 over 8. Alright, let's write down here. Okay, so it'll be negative 1 over 8. That's the answer for that one. Okay, see that? Pretty easy, isn't it? Very straightforward. Okay, good. Now let's look problem number 2. True or false? Negative, so I will ask you if I true or false. Negative 6 to the cube equals to negative 6 bracket cube. True or false? Problem number 2. True. Because this is still will give you negative, and this is negative. Doesn't matter. Only square is not equal. But for cube, yes, they both are equal. Negative 6 to the third power, or 6 to the cube, is equal to the whole thing, negative 6 to the cube. Alright? Look at that. It still give you negative 216. And this is also will give you 6 times 6 times 6, which is 216, and then negative. Alright? So that it is true. Okay? So true. Okay, good. Wow. You learned a lot in this lesson. Alright? Alright, my dear student. Now, this is the end of the sub lesson on the cubes of numbers. Alright? Okay, I want you to take the quiz, and then, oh, there's Pablo. The moment Mr. Max said quiz. Thank you, Pablo. And he dared us too. Alright, my dear students, go have fun with the quiz and then come back, and Mr. Mac will be here, and then we'll continue with our next sub lesson. It's going to be an exciting sub lesson. Alright? Alright, my dear students, go have fun with it and be champion, and come back and see Mr. Mac. I'll be here waiting for you. Bye-bye.